listening to Season 1 of the Get Started podcast, the podcast show set to reveal Fintech's brightest founders. We've kicked off with 9 Fintech leaders recording live at Europe's biggest Fintech show, Money2020. Stay tuned and email us at contact@getstarted.media if you'd like to feature.
Hello and welcome to the first series of the Get Started podcast. We're here today in Amsterdam for Money2020 Europe. This week we've been speaking to founders, leaders and other industry contributors across the tech, fintech and finance space. We want to learn a bit more about their journey, what drives them, and to get their takes on what comes next in these exciting sectors. With that in mind, I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, Miroslava Betinova, experienced industry enthusiast and contributor who is currently the head of fintech at Griffin. Miroslava, hello and welcome to the Get Started podcast.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. As you mentioned, I'm Miroslava Betinova, head of fintech at Griffin. Griffin is a bank and technology company licensed in the UK, and it's super nice to be here in Amsterdam and speaking with you today, Ryan.
Thank you so much. So you've mentioned there a little bit, Miroslava, about your role and what you do at Griffin and a little bit about what Griffin does. But I wonder if you can expand on that a little bit more for our listeners and kind of, a little bit of a background about Griffin and I guess what is, the mission of the company.
The real mission of the company is helping companies to embed financial services. We are a bank and a technology company. So what that means is that our customers can enjoy the benefit of working with a licensed entity with a full banking license and have the benefits of technology of a SaaS company. We try to service companies that handle money at scale and want to reach a wider user audience with different types of financial services, such as embedded savings products, for example.
And can you give us a little idea of the scale of Griffin? So, maybe how many people work there, what countries you guys work across, and what regions you serve?
We currently license in UK only and growing really fast. We're now over 100 Grifflings, which is wonderful. I remember when I joined, it was just under 30. It was about two and a half years ago. I have a really fond memory of our first company offsite that I was participating in, and we all fitted around one long table. It looked like a Hogwarts Hall, and all of us Grifflings sitting there. And we just came back from a company offsite again, and seeing the growth and the scale, and being a team of over 100 now is just really wonderful. And it's like seeing when your little kitten is turning into a really feisty cat.
So next we're moving on to our starting 7 questions. Here we ask the same 7 questions to everyone we speak to. We want to get a little bit more about their personal perspectives on work and also life. So I wonder if first we can start off with you. If you can maybe describe that moment when you finally decided that Griffin was the right place for you to work, whether that be before you started the company or a moment when you were already in the job when you realised this is the place for me.
I worked in the payment space for about 10 years before the opportunity to join Griffin came up, and I was approached by our Chief Commercial Officer, Adam Olsen, who I knew from my previous company. And I really enjoyed what I was doing, but I had a real urge to join a startup. I just wasn't really sure what sort of startup should it be. I never thought I'm going to end up working for a startup bank, tech-led bank. And after speaking initially with Adam and then meeting both our founders, I thought, okay, these guys are hugely inspirational. To have an ambition to come over from USA and set up a bank and obtain a banking license, I was thinking they got to be super determined, probably quite bonkers as well. Massive task at hand, and the temptation to be part of that was just really, really huge. So that was the moment when I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to jump the corporate ship and enjoy this little fintech startup. And I never looked back since. And it's been wonderful.
And on that journey, is there a particular moment that stands out as, something you'd love to do again, or a particular high point that maybe sticks out in your memory?
There were probably 2 highlights for me so far. One, within the first year of being at Griffin, when we submitted our application to the FC and the PRA to become an authorized bank. And there was a lovely picture that was circulated on our Slack when everyone who was in the office at the time was pushing the finger on the submission button. Obviously, it was just for the picture, but that moment like really sticks in my mind. And the time when David, our CEO and co-founder, announced that the news is in, we will be a bank, and that moment was like, wow, like this is quite incredible.
Sounds amazing. Now, of course, you can't have the highs without having some of the lows. So I wonder, in a similar vein, maybe not necessarily at your time at Griffin, but just, over your career, sort of in general, are there any moments that stick out as, a sort of a down point or something you wouldn't want to repeat?
I think, like you said, with the highs come the lows, and inevitably, after you had a stint of some great new successes, signing up new customers, maybe helping to launch a new type of a program that's solving a real life issue in the market, you will start going through a period of a bit of a darkness, like nothing happens the right way. There is a bit of a delay in the product delivery, your favorite customer decides to join the competitor, and those sort of moments tend to then snowball quite a bit, and it snowflake turns into a bit of a snowman, and that's sort of questioning everything about, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing differently to what I was doing when things were going really well? So there have been like one or two probably in every job I've done, these sort of phases. And I found that what's super helpful for me is to be surrounded with people who dwell on the positive side of the cycle because they have been through it before, and kind of feed you with encouragement, not over the top, not too much like fake, inspirational quotes on my kitchen wall, stuff like that, but just speaking to people who've been through the same, and that helps a lot. And I'm sure it's going to come again, no doubt.
You've obviously spoke there about the importance of that support framework, that network of people to, help and guide you. And obviously that's, very important when, to persevere and to sort of stick the course. I'm wondering, sort of with that in mind, what you feel is your biggest motivator and why, that perhaps motivates you.
For me, I really like working on projects, be part of projects, helping to launch projects that are solving real life issues. And so to see that I can work with customers, or have done in the past, that are working on delivering programs that helping economic migrants to get bank account, helping the unbanked communities to have access to finance, working with companies that helping to educate about the carbon footprint of our purchases. That's a huge motivator because, okay, it's not probably reinventing the journey to the moon and back or making it happen, but it's contributing towards day-to-day lives of how we are, how we interact with money, and hopefully making them better. And so what motivates me is always the hope that I will keep coming across these sort of companies and be part of their journey, and then be part of the overall end user journey that helps to better the day-to-day life with regards to financial services.
So I'm wondering if, you've been in fintech for, you're an experienced fintech professional, a really value contributor to the ecosystem. I wonder if, 10, 15 years ago, is this where you expected maybe to be in your life, or have things kind of taken an unexpected route?
Absolutely not. I wanted to be a vet, followed by being a sports coach. So how I ended up being in the heartbeat of fintech is still a bit of a mystery. But as they say, some of the best unexpected things in life turn out to be the best things in life. So no, I did not envision myself being part of a really, really awesome, super talented team that started a bank, and speaking to you here at this conference, which for me personally is a bit like a trip to Disneyland every year. Absolutely love coming to Amsterdam, love coming to Money2020, love talking about fintech. And then, yeah, let's see where we're going to be in the next 5 years' time.
Amazing stuff. And you mentioned Money 2020. Obviously, we're here this week. There's so many amazing businesses around, so many fantastic startups. Through your work at Griffin, I'm sure you're coming into contact with businesses like that all the time too. But obviously, again, there's a lot of startups that succeed and do great things, and there's also a lot of startups who maybe don't reach those heights and for one way or the other, fail to succeed. So I'm wondering, as someone with a lot of experience and insight into this topic, why, in your opinion, do so many startups fail?
So when I was talking about the moments, like what motivates me, it's working on solutions that solve real life problems. I genuinely believe the reason why so many startups fails is because they do this in reverse. They create a solution and then they fabricate the problem and try to then apply the solution that existed to problem that didn't, but they made up. And then at the end of the day, with the amount of competition, with the amount of innovation, with the amount of creativity that's coming out from our industry and all the industries, only the ones that genuinely help to support real problems, either in a B2B space, B2C space, are the ones that will stick. Obviously, getting the funding strategy is really important. Building the right team around yourself is super important. But that is my personal view. If you have a solution, but there is no problem that's is the solution for, eventually the company probably going to fail.
So in the final question, this doesn't have to be just fintech or tech related. It can be, of course, if that's, where you see the biggest change coming. But we want to know, broadly speaking, if we cast our vision forward 10 years, what will look fundamentally different about our lives?
Big question. What's going to look different? I mean, this year's theme at Money 2020 is man and the machine. I think it's inevitable that our life is going to be even more and more entwined and driven and managed and supported by technology in payments and away from payments. But I genuinely hope that in 10 years' time, we will still be getting together as a bunch of friends in real life, sitting on the grass, feeling the sunshine on our faces, and reminiscing about the wonderful times at Money 2020.
Well, that takes us to our Issue of the Week segment, where each week we focus on a particular issue. Of course, this week, with where we are and with the venue, it feels very fitting to make it Money 2020, or Disneyland, as you refer to it, Miroslava. So I think we already know your answer to this question. You obviously see Money 2020 as being very important. But I guess if you could maybe speak a little bit to, what value do events like this bring to the broader fintech community?
Well, first and foremost, and it's a great word, community. This should be about community, bringing it together, growing it, and showing support for each other. Every company that's now the super successful household name was a startup once, and it's really important, and I would like to think that this should never be forgotten on the journey. So conferences like Money 2020 has both sides of the ends. You would have the super brands and then you would have the one-man bands. And the importance is of bringing these together, helping to create bridges, providing a support, almost treating it as a bit of a, you could call it an academy, call it a bit of a sandbox, creativity sandbox, network building. So for me, that is the real value. Obviously, if some business gets done here in terms of signing new deals, that's wonderful. But I think the overall importance is letting your industry know who you are and helping others to be part of it and part of your journey.
Amazing. And you've mentioned there, something I think is really important, that Money 2020 does bring this broad range of different sized companies at different stages. Obviously, an event like this, it's not just Money 2020, but a lot of events of this ilk, they do come with, there's a cost attached. They're not, a lot of them aren't free to attend. And I imagine, if you're a startup founder, especially if money is slightly tight, there's going to be sort of a weighing up process to decide, whether this is going to deliver value on the investment. So I guess in your opinion, at what stage or what are those sort of signs for a startup founder or a fintech professional to say, okay, actually I am going to get value from an event like Money 2020?
Well, thinking back to when we came here with Griffin for the first time was actually 3 years ago. We did it without a stand, with a number of tickets, and we were at the point of already submitting for our license. The product shaping or the product roadmap was very clear. There was a story and there was a roadmap that we could clearly articulate to our existing and future investors, potential investors that we were meeting at the event. So I think that is the really right time. Kind of have at least the MVP ready, have the next 3 years vision quite clear and how that can be shaped and how it's going to look, and then come to this event. It's really okay to just buy a ticket, walk around. There's heaps of space to arrange meetings, have conversations. Of course, benefit from listening to all the content that's carefully curated, and just soaking up the incredible amount of information that's available here.
And all the free coffees, so don't forget that. So now in our closing segment, I would like to, thank you so much again, Miroslava, for your time. It's been a really interesting and insightful conversation. I guess before we do wrap up, I wanted to know if you had any sort of final thoughts that you wanted to share with our audience, and also, where they can find out a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing at Griffin.
Probably my final thoughts would be that as our industry grows, and it grows at an incredible speed, I'd like to think that we can be creating culture of collaboration rather than competition, creating a culture of information sharing, knowledge sharing, and creating lasting friendships, not just work acquaintances. We spend a lot of time at these events. We spend a lot of time in our companies, and I would really like to see our fintech community to be growing and kind of putting emphasis on these feelings and values. You can find me on LinkedIn, Miroslava Betinova. You can find us on www.griffin.com. Some wonderful blogs that are produced by our content team, designed with the intention to, again, knowledge share. So please check out our page, check out the blogs, and reach out to us if you want to chat or a coffee.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this episode.
You've been listening to Get Started Podcast, the podcast show set to reveal FinTech's brightest founders, brought to you by Communications House for Entrepreneurs, Started. To take part, email contact@getstarted.media or WhatsApp us on +44 7822 01 8863.